Well, hello. My name's Jamie Deason from El Dorado, Arkansas. I've been collecting and dealing in antique weaponry for around 30 years or more. I started when I was around 6 years old, looking in old encyclopedias and art books at suits of armor and swords, and that sparked my interest. And as I grew older, I finally started searching for and finding old swords and guns, and that's been one of my passions. I've been going to little gun shows, starting around in my area, and then traveling all over the United States, going to the larger shows in search and selling, what I've been finding. The pieces will start out at a small show in a small town, and people walk in wanting to sell them. They'll sell them. They'll move up to, may change hands once or twice at that show, and then move on to larger gun shows until they finally reach the end collector. And you got to have an idea of what the stuff's worth and what it might bring. And I say, for instance, there was a Colt pistol that showed up in a small show in a medium-sized town, and a little old lady had taken it into a gun shop, and they misidentified it as a Colt Navy. And they wrote her a little appraisal that the gun was worth around $1,200. Well, she brings it in the show and won't sell it for less than $1,200, so she sells it to one dealer, and he brings it over to me, wanting to know is it worth $2,500, and I looked at it and I said, yeah, it ought to bring $25. Of course, I wanted the gun, but if I'd have tried to buy it, he probably would have thought it was worth more. So I sent another friend of mine over there. I said, if you can buy that gun for $2,500 or less, get it. Well, he goes over and buys it for $2,000, which was a good price. I made a phone call. The first guy that I called offered $5,000 for it, and then when he saw it in person, he kind of crawfished and said he'd only do $4,000. But I knew that he wasn't the end user that gun needed to go to, so I liked them. I've been studying older guns for a long time, so really didn't want to sell it, but I shopped it around a while, and I priced it for $7,500. Ended up running it on one of the internet gun auction sites at $7,500, and had a dealer or collector from Massachusetts, offer me $6,500 for it. Well, in my description I put in there that if this gun was cleaned, it may have some cylinder seam. Well, he made the statement in an email that if I'd have thought that, I'd have probably already done it. Well, he got my dander up, and I went out there and got me some fine paper and cleaned the cylinder very gently. Sure enough, it had some seam. So I sent him an email telling him I took his advice and cleaned it, and it does have seams, so now I want $8,500 for it. Well, I ran it on the auction site a couple more times, and second time I run it, it brought $8,500. So that's a pretty good profit from $1,200 to $8,500. And of course, that happens all the time. You have people bringing in an item out of an old collection, and they hadn't checked the price on it in a long time. Sometimes they feel if they can double their money, they're doing good, and they have a piece that they may have paid $500 for back then that might bring $20,000 now. The market has grown that much. Your guns are some of the best investments you can make. If you'd have bought a Winchester back in 1891 or put up a $20 gold piece and kept them both in real nice shape, right now the Winchester would be a heck of a lot better investment than the gold would have been by a long shot. So anyway, I try to do my best to stay on top of the market, what pieces are going to bring and what they're worth. And then you also have pieces that have hidden value, such as little documentation or a factory letter could really bring the value of an item up. If it fits in the serial range that, an item should be investigated, say your early Colt percussions, a lot of those guns were possibly shipped south at the beginning of the war between the states. If you find one of those, that can increase the value of that weapon 3 or 4 times what it would bring without that documentation, depending on where it went. So that's the key, is documentation, a little bit of research, and the paperwork is what stories don't sell. Some people like to buy a story, but I can't get a whole lot out of a story. That documentation can't be beat. So that's where the money lies, is in good documentation. Thank you.